everyone, welcome back to Amy's Bookshelf. Today we're going to talk about the books I read during the first half of the month. So today we're going to first of all start with the books I read for Amy's book, Game of a Bookish Life readathon. One of those was this poetry collection written by Hafiz. Hafiz of Shiraz. This one is a poetry collection edited or translated by Peter Avery and John Heath-Stubbs, and this one I enjoyed a lot. It's 30 poems, and they talk about how to translate and or how to understand the poems better, because the author has several poems, like hundreds of poems. This author is also contemporary of Chaucer, so these poems are very old, like hundreds of years old. So very interesting. I really enjoyed those poems, so I gave the whole collection a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I also read The Boys from Brazil by Ira Levin. I really enjoyed this collection, I really enjoyed this book, and I'm giving this a 4 out of 5 stars as well. I found this to be very engaging, where at the very beginning he tells a group of men, or Joseph Mendel tells a group of men that they need to go around and kill a bunch of 65-year-old men for no reason aside from the point to help the Nazi regime. And it was very interesting. It was just after the Cold War, essentially, or during the Cold War era, and they're in Brazil. So it's very confusing, but as it goes along, it's very good and very engaging. I give it 4 stars. It's engaging but slow. So it's really kind of, you have to pay attention and you have to stay engaged with your pacing, but at the same time, it's well worth the effort in my opinion. So I would recommend this. I have more to read from Ira Levin on my shelves, and I can't wait to. Now on to the final book support group. I read Northpointe Chalet by Debra Witemeyer. This is a retelling of Northanger Abbey. It is a Christian fiction one, but I found that it's a very good retelling of Northanger Abbey, seeing as it's not my favorite book of Jane Austen's, so this one definitely got a 3-star, just because its source material isn't as great as like Pride and Prejudice or Persuasion, but I will be reading Persuasion's one this summer. So this one follows Kathy as she is trying to run her own business, her own little bookstore, when she meets Ben, who is a pastor, and he's like 8 years older than her. She's 22, and his father owns this place called Northpointe Chalet. It was very interesting and very spooky, and of course Kathy has an overactive imagination. It's also interesting to note in here that Kathy has ADHD and she takes medication, and I think it's a very well done presentation of it, well done representation, and I really enjoyed that. So I think that this is an interesting book if you're wanting Northanger Abbey retelling. I think you should go for it. I also read The Heart's Charge by Karen Witemeyer. This one I finished on the 16th, but I've been reading it throughout, so I'm going to kind of count it. This one is the second book in the Hanger's Horseman series. I really enjoyed this one as well. This one I gave 5 stars too. It follows 2 men, Luke and Jonah, who are in the Hanger's Horseman books, or they're in the Hanger's Horseman group, but they don't really have any jobs they're taking anymore because the group is kind of disbanding. So they deliver a baby on the side of basically the road, and they're delivering a baby to a little home that is for children who are not wanted, but those children are wanted there. And when they deliver that baby, they find a woman who Luke used to know and almost got married to at one point, along with another woman there who Jonah finds very attractive, and they want to stay and help out. That's the start of this book, the first course trouble, and these 2 men find some things that maybe are more important than keep traveling, and it's very good. I really enjoyed this Christian country romance, and I love this series. The book 3 is going to come out in June, and I have the ARC, so I need to be getting on that one very quickly. I also read Anne's House of Dreams. This is by Montgomery, and I really love this series. However, book 4 really disappointed me. This one's book 5, and I'm so glad it picked back up. I thought this one was one of the good ones, and I'm very glad to be reminded that it is. This one follows Anne as she has moved away from Green Gables, but I can't tell you too much more because that would be spoiling the series. However, well worth it. If you are struggling with Windy Poplars, skip it and move on here, because man, it is not needed Windy Poplars. This one is much better. But yes, this one is quite good. I'm giving it a 5 stars, or was it 4 stars? I think it was 4 stars, but really, really enjoyed this one again. and highly recommend skipping Wendy Pawlers entirely if you're reading the series. I also read 2nd Chronicles from my Bible, which is book number 14 in the Bible. So that's technically a series. I'm going to count that one, and I enjoyed it. I think that one was 32 chapters, which is like 32 pages. But yes, I read it. I also read Homicide and Hala Hala by Mia P. Manansala. I really enjoyed that one. I give it 4 stars. I figured out whodunit pretty decently through, but I was really excited with what was going on. I really enjoy all of the characters, although I think I enjoyed listening to it a lot better than reading it physically. I read it with an ebook, and it just was not better by any means than my audiobook of the first one. So I prefer listening to reading with my eyes, and I'll try to get an audiobook of Blackmail and whatever the food is for the 3rd book if I don't get the Ark, which I've requested, because I am very excited to read the 3rd one. But yeah, I love this world. I love Leela. I love her friends. And I also really love how they handle relationships in romance, mysteries, romance, whatever, are so picky for me. So I'm very happy about that. And also when it comes to cozy mysteries, and if this is something you're picky about and you're wondering if this is good, this is like a lot more Agatha Christie-like in the grotesque nature of it sometimes, but it does have a lot more of those like trigger warnings that she does provide in the beginning of the book, which is very good, because in case you're needing them, like in case you need trigger warnings, read the front, because she'll tell you what's in her book for trigger warnings, which I think is wonderful for her to provide. I also read the last 2 books in the Magic Trio series, so Camp Time and California, and Snow in the Snow Leopard? Sunlight on the Snow Leopard. These 2 were really great. Camp Time in California was about the national parks and Teddy Roosevelt declaring them to be protected and what all that went through. So how Jack and Annie were able to help that. And then also Sunlight on the Snow Leopard was about new life and springtime and celebrating holly and how that can bring about happiness and joy and how we can help each other. So it was really interesting. Both of them were really great. I gave them both 4 stars. I'm sorry if I'm speeding through this. My phone is like about to die and the battery life isn't great right now. Or storage life isn't great right now. So I also read The Case of the Bizarre Bouquet. This one's by Nancy Springer. I read this with Krys from Krys's Corner. We had a great time with this one. I like this one a lot better because it had a lot more mystery, and that's what I needed. I didn't need more world building to the point that we got last time, because last time it was all world building and no mystery. I needed a balance, and I got it this time. It was so much better, and it was just more mystery with the appropriate amount of character development, and how we could actually understand why she was making choices that would actually be appropriate to her age, and how that actually influenced her detective skills. So I thought all of that tied in quite well, and this book got a 4-star from me, and I'm very excited to continue on now when I wasn't before. So we'll be reading on through the series. I also read The Redeemer by Harry Hole. This one I read with Berna and Nikki. I will link their channels down below along with Krys, and we had a great time with The Redeemer. So this one was way better than the last one, which seems to be a trend that I'm going through. But The Redeemer had Harry just trying to figure out who this person was who took out a gun and shot this man who was working for the Salvation Army in the middle of the cold winter night in December. And that was like all that he knew, and people can't identify this man. They just don't know what's going on. And that's all he's trying to work on right before Christmas. And it is just so confusing for him. I really liked this one. I felt like it was so in-depth and so mysterious, but also it was kind of just like, we get to see Harry do his work as like an actual intelligent being and not just as someone who's hungover, which I thought was brilliant. And I also really liked how Harry could do his job. So very well done for me. Another book that I just happened to read during that time was Rapunzel vs. Frankenstein. This one's a graphic novel by Martin Powell and illustrated by Omar Lozano. This one I picked up for the Mary Shelley May because one of the prompts on the bingo board was to read a Frankenstein retelling. So I just found this at my local library that was available at that time I was in there, so I grabbed it. It's very short, it's in middle grade, and the art was okay. So it's just where Rapunzel finds for Dr. Frankenstein to help her with a cold and things go bad. Why would you go to him for a cold? But yeah, it was good. It was something that I actually found to be interesting and I liked the message of it. And for middle grade kids, I think it was a really good book. So I'm giving it 4 stars. And I don't think I would read on this series, but if I needed to for another fairy tale prompt, I would go to this series for that. So that's not a bad thing at all. I also read Death Comes as the End. This was for May of the Moderns and also for the Historical Fiction Readathon. And I really enjoyed this. I did a big, deep thoughts discussion in my most recent Agatha Christie review. So I will direct you there if you want to know my non-spoiler thoughts and my spoiler thoughts, which were quite in depth. But I really enjoyed this. I listened to it on audio by Amelia Fox and I really loved it. It was great to revisit this one as an Agatha Christie one that I knew the ending to. And it was just really interesting to see it through that perspective. I love revisiting Agatha Christie's where I know the end to see how I can spot the clues as they develop. So really great to give this one still 4 stars. Yeah, really, really solid Agatha Christie mystery if you ask me. I also read The Elegance of a Hedgehog. This one's by Muriel Barbery. Not Blueberry. This one was pretentious as anything, which I knew. I give it 2 stars. I can kind of see the value in it, but it was really interesting because when I was reading it, I wasn't really reading it for myself. I was reading it for my book club firstly, and I was the only one out of like 6 or 7 people who tried to read it that could finish it. So I was like 1 out of 7 or 8. Which is really hilarious to me. Everyone just was like, oh my goodness, you actually finished it. And I'm like, I don't know. I just forced myself to keep turning the pages. But also, as I was reading it, it wasn't even like I was intaking the words and like thinking about it for myself. I was just like, this is such a Christy Luis book. Because I looked on Goodreads and saw that she rated it 4 stars. So I'm like, oh yeah, I can see why she likes this book. And then I also was reading it and thinking this is such a book for my brother. My brother would actually like enjoy the thought process and like enjoy talking about this thing. So I wasn't thinking about it for me. I was thinking about this for my brother and for Christy Luis, being like, I can see people who like this book, not my kind of book, but other people. So I could see the value in it for some, but not for me. So I give it 2 stars. It's about 2 people. I don't even remember the girl's name because she was just so forgettable and actually quite annoying. But Renee, who was the older woman, who was the concierge, and she had expectations for her life. And then she started to challenge them, and the girl who wanted to commit suicide the whole time. That was the beginning of it, and I can't tell you anything more because honestly, I don't remember much more else except for the ending, and I can't tell you the ending. So there we go. Elegance of the Hedgehog. My last book was Murder in the Neighborhood. This one's by Ellen J. Green, I believe. And I listened to this on audio. It was an ARC, and it was about the mass shooting in 1949 that happened in the States, where in this book, we're following 2 perspectives, one of which is Howard's mother, because Howard is the shooter. So Howard's mother, Frida, who is she's just going through her life. And I don't know how exactly we got that information, so that's kind of why I knocked it down a star. I was like, we never really were told how that information was passed on to us, so I would like to know that. So yeah, I give it 4 stars for that reason. Otherwise, I would have given it 5. So we get information about how Howard's mother, Frida, lived and what she knew of Howard and how it got to that point with Howard. And then also we got the information from Ray, because Ray was interviewed about that event, because Ray saw the shooting go down. He was spared, but also he ended up being quite a close friend of Howard, even though Howard was a grown man and Ray was 12, or just turned 12, I believe, during that time. So you kind of see where that goes on. So you have the young child or the young preteen's perspective and the adult's perspective on the same event of during, before, and after that kind of situation. And it was very interesting. I found it to be very compelling, and how you can turn someone who is very much an ostracized person of society and turn them into someone who hates everyone and is ready to take their anger out on the world. So I found that to be a very interesting book, and I would really recommend the audiobook as well. It was very well done and I enjoyed it a lot. So if you're interested in true crime, I think that's the first recorded mass shooting in the US history. So that is something that you might want to check out, Murder in the Neighborhood. So those were all the books I read so far in this month. Not this so far at this point, but so far as of the 16th, because that was the halfway point that I decided to cut off my reading for. So that was actually 15 books, so almost one a day. That was pretty good, although there were a lot of short ones. I'm happy with that. So please let me know down below what you have read during the first half of the month, or if you did the final book support group as well, and did you read some sequels or finish off any series down there. Please let me know down below. Also, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe, and if you like this video, please like it, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.